I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We had a closed session last week pursuant to Government Code 54957, Public Employee Performance Evaluation for the Agricultural Commissioner. We are going to continue to the meeting of March 23rd. I just spoke with our CAO, and the recommendation is we can't do it until April 6th. We have no meeting on the 30th.
Right.
Okay.
What are we having on the 6th?
Will be the evaluation for the Agricultural Commissioner. So that meeting will be on April 6th. Like to move to consent agenda. Does any member of the board, staff, or public have a consent agenda item they would like to pull?
3, 4, 5.
You just pulled the whole thing. Oh, that's fine. You left the minutes. Thank you. May I have a motion on 1 and 2, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. 3, 4, and 5. Mr. Clark, could you please come up? Thank you.
I pulled 3, 4, and 5 because it's a $500,000 if you add them together, with some pocket change different. I just thought that was a lot of money on a consent item and stuff. And I know Public Work has a lot of real nice new equipment now. It seems like they're collecting equipment, and I've had a chuck hole in my front yard, which is a county-maintained road, for about 12 years now.
Well, you just haven't called the right number. Are you saying that you don't want these approved, or
No, it's not that I don't want them approved. It just seems like a lot of...
You want your pothole filled?
No, not even my pothole. That was just being nice.
Okay, you got that right. He doesn't want his pothole.
It's just, I just thought it was a lot of money,
these three also.
considering the
Tom,
budget
just a
problems we
minute.
have and stuff right now. The budget's tight and
We need
stuff.
to get Tom Garcia here.
And it just seems
Tom,
like
just a minute.
it just seems like a $500,000 on a consent thing is it's getting a lot of money just on a consent.
Okay.
You know, it's not like a $2,000 or a $3,000. $500,000
That's
seems a
fair.
lot of money still.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clapp, there are a number of us on the board that feel the same way. We need to talk about this. But I am in agreement with Supervisor Tryon that Mr. Garcia or somebody from Public Works needs to be here.
Okay, thank you.
And while we're waiting for them, I do have one question, which was, at least I feel is implied by the raising of this, which is, are the funds that are used to purchase these vehicles available for other uses, such as fixing potholes? I don't believe so, but I'd like to know.
No, it said it came out of the road fund, so if it's out of the road fund,
Well, then it is. All right. Well, I'd like to have an answer to that then.
You all are just upset because it has to do with snow. Yes, Mr. Stone, could you please identify yourself?
Let's see, well, should we have somebody contact?
Yes,
Public
Tom,
Works?
we'll take care of it. Thank you.
Darren Spellman, Rancho Calaveras, 95252. My questions were about the same items there, number 3, 4, and 5, which is the purchase of snow removal machinery, as well as using for sand distribution, water, et cetera, et cetera. There's 4 vehicles totaling approximately $488,000. The gentleman before me threw out the number of $500,000, so that's easy to round up, but $488,000 is pretty close to $500,000. When I looked at this to try to determine what it might be for these, what the reasoning could be behind these, there were several things listed. Number 1, just replacement of old materials, but number 2, they also listed an attempt to be CARB compliant for the California Air Resource Board, AB 32, which is kind of infamous, but nevertheless it's there at the moment. So my questions are, number 1, how many of these vehicles, the agenda is calling for 4 vehicles, all of which are very expensive. All of them are over $100,000 each. Like I said, totaling $488,000 total. How many of those vehicles are necessary at this point in time to replace equipment that is antiquated or is no longer reasonably functional? If it is that there is a vehicle or two vehicles, however many, that absolutely are not safe to be on the road at this time, then safety comes first, absolutely. However, if there's any way that we can retrofit or repair the vehicles that exist already, I think that would be prudent fiscally at this point in time to move with something like that rather than the purchase of these new vehicles. The next thing that concerns me about that is that there has been some recent breaking news that the board may not be aware of. I don't know if they are or not, and I'm not assuming either way, but I'm just making the comment that the lead scientist for the California Air Resources Board, who was the person who put together the data that AB 32 was founded on, has been found to be fraudulent. And they now have a series of litigation against them. This gentleman claimed that he had a PhD in science from University of California at Davis. That, in fact, is a lie. They called him on it about 2 weeks ago, and he's been since fired from his position, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding that right now. His PhD was purchased online for $1,000. So with that detail in light, there's been litigation that's been brought against the California Air Resource Board, and also there has been legislation being introduced by current members of the state legislature to, in effect, not maybe overturn, but reword or revamp AB 32 as needed based on, if nothing else, the fact that the guy that wrote it had a fraudulent PhD. So if it is that the county is, one of their goals is to become CARB compliant because of the AB 32 requirements, we need to, I think, in my opinion, to hold off a little bit and research what it is that's going to actually be forced for us to comply to after we see the litigation brought against the California Air Resource Board in light of their phony PhD who wrote the scientific paper that this was based on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, I don't know if you've heard all the questions that are being asked. Why do we need 4 trucks? Or do we have to be CARB compliant, et cetera?
Well, currently, we do have to follow the laws that exist, so we do have to comply with CARB regulations, but that's not the only reason that we're purchasing these vehicles. You've seen our 1984 camouflage snowplow fleet. We can't buy parts for those anymore. What we have is surplus, so the parts that break down, we're putting on used parts, trying to Band-Aid them along. We do need the new snowplows. We need dump trucks. And I believe the water truck is also on there for the landfill. The water truck is a 1980, I believe it's an 86. It's, again, maintenance on that is expensive. What we're trying to do is a fleet rollover so that we aren't spending more maintaining these vehicles than we would purchasing new ones. It's standard operations for a fleet. You don't want to spend more money maintaining an old piece of equipment that you can't buy parts for than you would buying a new or newer piece of equipment. We are also looking at auctions, surplus vehicles from the state that State General Services has determined to be not used efficiently. So when those come up for auction, we're looking at those as well. But with the deals we're getting now, we're actually buying them for less than we had budgeted. So we're pretty pleased with these purchases. Again, it is critical for Public Works to have a fleet of snowplows that actually works so that our mechanics aren't out at midnight trying to fix a plow that's broken down and the roads aren't getting cleared.
Tom, elaborate a little more on the CARB issue. What is the current state law, and what are we doing to meet it? What are the deadlines, and if we don't meet it, what are the penalties?
The penalties are, we would have to take a piece of equipment that we own out of service. We would own it, but we couldn't use it. The current law is you have to roll over a certain percentage of your fleet. There's separate laws for both on-road and off-road.
Right.
Our on-road is, that's what we're trying
That's
to
what we're
address.
dealing with today.
Right. Well, a portion of it is off-road with a water truck. That one is technically not on a public road because it's out of the landfill. It's part of the equipment fleet that we have to roll over, and that's a percentage. What we do on the equipment fleet is look for the one that's causing us the most problems, that is the oldest, can't get parts for. Those are the ones we try to surplus out and replace. The on-road, it's actual pieces of equipment that they identify. Off-road, it's the overall fleet.
So
On-road
how
is
much
specific.
time do we have to meet these requirements? I mean, does this just put us into the minimum compliance
That's
requirements, or are we doing more than the minimum?
No, we can't afford to do more than the minimum. What we do is we roll over the pieces of equipment as they're being, as you might, termed out, as the, before we're required to replace them, we replace them on our schedule.
Okay, so in other words, we sort of might anticipate several of these every year?
Oh, yes.
Because we're going to have
We have
to,
an
we're going
equipment
to have to turn
replacement
these
plan.
over unless AB 32 is overturned. So you're saying even without AB 32, these are old enough and the parts are scarce enough and the maintenance is high enough that it's your recommendation that we would proceed independent of AB 32?
Indeed. The fleet hasn't been, integrated waste fleet hasn't been touched in 3 years. And no money's been put aside for replacement for those 3 years because of budget constraints. And fortunately, this year, we were able to address some of those budget problems and actually look at replacing some of the vehicles.
Is that because of the extra money we've obtained through grants, et cetera? I mean, one of the questions here is well, it's not all road fund because part of it's solid waste fund.
Right.
But the component that's road fund, you feel this is a higher priority than some of the issues that we have for road maintenance and upkeep?
We can't do snow plowing reliably without replacing some of this equipment. We have operators. Our road fund, or our road department right now is generally in reasonable shape. Our equipment isn't. We've been surplusing out the equipment that we don't use. If we have too many of one type, too many dump trucks, we surplus those out. We keep the core of what we need. The ones that are too old or don't meet CARB regulations, those get surplused out first. The remaining fleet is what we look at rolling over and keeping up. So we do have an equipment maintenance and replacement plan. It's not very well funded, and we're trying to hit the most egregious cases now. And as you've seen, our camouflage pickups, those are my top priority to get rid of because they're not reliable. They cost too much to maintain, and they're 1984s. It's very difficult for us to keep people out at midnight plowing roads in something that's not very reliable.
Thank you. That completes my question.
Gary, did you have any?
No, I think Tom asked most of my
Russ?
questions.
Well, these were all pulled off together, but I'd like to go through them one by one. Do you have the agenda items here? Okay, on the agenda item number 3, this is a 35,000-pound GVW dump truck.
Yes.
With a maximum load limit per axle at 20,500. Is this a 2-axle truck or a 3-axle truck? It's a bobtail.
I'm sorry, is this the 35,000 GVW?
Yeah, it must be a bobtail. There's a gentleman in the back there that's saying yes, it is.
Go ahead, Rojo. I'd like to introduce our new fleet manager.
Wow.
Hey, how you doing?
What's your name, sir?
Rogelio Espejel.
Say that again.
Rogelio Espejel.
Rogelio.
Yeah, but I go by Rojo.
Okay, roll.
That 33,000-pound dump truck, it is a 2-axle dump truck.
Okay.
It's also going to be used as a sanding, but the box is going to come out of it. It's going to have de-icing tanks on it if it needs to be. It's going to help the road department transport equipment from job to jobs without hindering all the other operations.
So it'll be a flatbed with a detachable box?
No, it's actually a dump truck, and
Yes.
the sander body's going to go inside the dump truck.
Oh, I see, okay.
So it's going to be a multi-use piece of equipment. So the way we're speccing out equipment now is to maximize the use of the equipment, not just buy one thing, spend $300,000 to use it, 3 or 4 months out of the year. It's going to be used the whole year.
That's quite a concept.
And there's also going to have a snowplow on the front of it. So it's going to be used for snowplowing, sanding, hauling equipment, and materials to the different jobs that these guys need to take care of.
Okay, does this have an Allison automatic transmission or a stick?
It's automatic.
Okay. What color is it? No, just,
Go bus yellow.
it'll be yellow. All right. Two axle, okay. Well, I think I've satisfied my curiosity about item 3, so.
What about 4 and 5?
Well, you want to take them all at once?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's look at number 4. Okay, these are, I wanted to have you fellows clarify on our options on the AB 32. It was about a year and a half ago, or maybe a little bit more, that it first came to my attention that we were spending there's $9,500 each for 3 little dump trucks for filters that would comply with AB 32. The trucks were worth about $10,000 apiece, and we're putting $9,000 filters on them. So, and when I inquired about that, they said, well, we don't have any option. We've got to do it or destroy the engines in the trucks. You can't, I guess the way that this law is written, it's hard for me to believe, but you have to destroy the truck. You can't sell it to somebody else or sell it out of state. It's, am I saying that approximately accurately?
Yeah, well, some of the trucks that we've been getting rid of right now, we just got rid of 3 dump trucks that were all 1980 vintage with 3208 cats. So the engines that those filters were put on brought our percentage, down of what we needed to get rid of. So they actually saved the county money in the long run. So these, the trucks you're talking about is 420, 421, some from different yards. And those we have to keep for 7 years. And those filters are actually, in the long run, the county's going to save money because we don't have to replace those trucks.
Okay.
Even though they're 2000s, we don't have to get rid of them, so let's say 2020. So it's going to,
Okay, so
the life of that piece of equipment is going to,
the filter has extended the life of
Yes.
the truck.
We can't replace a truck for $10,000. That's,
right.
those are, what, 135?
The ones he's talking about, they're $88,000 to replace that truck.
Okay. So a $10,000 investment in that is minimal.
And the trucks are in good shape. It's not like, we're taking a $2,000 piece of equipment that the parts are, hard to get. It's something new, and the life is still, it has plenty of life left.
Okay.
We also received Carl Moyer grants from Environmental Health. They pay for a portion of it, a portion of the repowering or the filter or bringing up to CARB regulations. Unfortunately, if we use those grants, we are committed to keeping that piece of equipment for up to 7 years.
Depends on how the contract's written with them.
Okay.
So we're very careful in requesting those grants, because if we put a filter on a piece of equipment that we hopefully will surplus in 5 years, we don't want to spend the money to have to keep it for 7. In addition, if the money that we receive is a small portion of the actual repair. One of them was I believe, about $550 for a $9,500 repair. We couldn't rationalize that, so we opted not to get the grant. So again, there's a whole world of fleet. We're glad to have Rojo on board to help us with that. But these equipment purchases that we're doing now are part of our fleet replacement plan to keep from having to spend more county money on equipment that isn't worth it.
Okay, well, getting back to those three trucks, they were Ford F-650s, as I recall. Is that
Yeah.
$88,000 for
For
that?
the same truck,
Yeah.
because of the new trucks, when you buy new trucks, it comes with that filter already on it. So that cost, since we didn't buy equipment last year or the year before, now the price has gone up $10,000 because of that new emissions filters that they're putting on. So
What's the life of the filter?
it's with the truck.
So whatever the life of the truck is,
Right,
you never
the ones-
replace cartridges or anything in it?
No, the trucks that we got, that we retrofitted, it has a monitoring system, and once we can burn them out in the shop, we do it in-house. It doesn't cost any money. We don't have to pay an outsider to come out and burn them out for us.
But the truck is down for the 24 hours or so that it takes to...
Since we put those filters on, we've only had one truck, and it was a test run to see if it'd burn out. So the downtime, we haven't seen any downtime since we put those filters on those piece of equipment.
Okay, well, I take back everything I said about that then, so. All right, and the item number 4 was the water truck, and that's going to be used primarily, if not exclusively, at the dump, is that correct?
Actually, this truck is for the road department. The 33,000.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the first one we talked about. Item
The water truck, the 4,000-gallon water truck,
Yeah.
is for the road department.
Okay, that answers
Okay.
one of my questions, because it says road fund revenues, and it doesn't say solid waste, so it is for the road. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that's also a 2-axle truck?
No, that's a 3-axle.
3-axle, yeah, it would have to be with that.
The current water truck, the fleet, it's a 1969 Mack
Okay.
with no front brakes. So,
What's wrong with that? Okay, the last one has piqued my interest. I mean, this is a truck that was built the year that I was born, so it must be almost in new condition, so. A 1943, must be a 6x6 or something? I mean, that's had to be...
yeah, that's what we're replacing with those trucks. So these, the sander, we have 5 sanders in the fleet, and they're all GI rigs that we've acquired. And the parts, to get parts for them, you kind of just got to call the East Coast, and then it takes 2 weeks to get here, downtime, and the price of those parts they're very expensive depending on what it is. So, like right now, we have 4 internationals that we use to plow snow. These 2 trucks are going to start replacing those, and those internationals become the sand trucks. And once they become sand trucks, they're exempt from the CARB percentage, so the county's going to save money in that way too.
Okay, well,
I understand.
Raul, thank you very much for clarifying all that for us, so appreciate it, and welcome to the county.
Thanks.
Any more?
That's all.
Steve?
Rogelio, just wanted to welcome you in your new position and look forward to great fleet management. I think it's going to save us a bundle, and it's good to have a competent guy aboard. Thanks.
So I don't see you up in Arnold in the snow in the winter?
I'll still be up there.
All right, thank you. Just a moment, Mr. Solomon.
Sure.
Mr. Tryon, did you have any other questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, Mr. Spellman?
Okay. Well, it pleases me very much to hear the report from Mr. Garcia and our new fleet manager. Some of the things that he brought to light there were, that was very inspiring, that they're doing with the filters and other things like that to be able to prolong the life of the things that we have. One of the things that I would continue to stress is in regards to the CARB adherence. That board, like I said, is under fire right now for negligence and false documents, et cetera, and if it is that we're trying to become compliant with that, I think we might want to look at that a little deeper in regards to where the litigation goes with this. If these things that are being used for snow removal, we're almost at the point of the season where we're past that, and I think that we might be able to make it through with what we've got through this current snow season. To just kind of see where that litigation ends up in regards to the California Air Resource Board. The other thing that I liked that Mr. Garcia was talking about was about seeking or finding opportunities for vehicles that are being auctioned. I know that Caltrans, as well as PG&E and other companies like that, they have built into their fleet contracts that they only use the vehicles for X number of months. I believe 5 years is the industry standard for some of those utility companies. So you can purchase a vehicle that's 5 years old that there's absolutely nothing wrong with, but according to their bylaws with the CPUC, the Public Utility Commission, they have to replace those fleet so often. So I think that if we hold off and use what we've got for this year's snow season to the end, which we're almost at, maybe Mr. Garcia or his staff might be able to pick up some of these vehicles that are on auction, and we could save some money there as well. I don't have any concerns with whether or not it's relevant to make the purchases based on the things that were just spoken of. I think that it's relevant to make the purchases. But, timing is everything, whether it's buying a piece of real estate or buying a car or anything like that. So I think that since we're almost at the end of the snow season and most of this is snow related, perhaps we might be able to save the county some money by holding off a little bit longer and seeing if we can purchase some of those at auction rather than brand new vehicles. So, thank you.
These vehicles are not being used just for snow removal,
Right, I know.
as was stated.
Yeah.
They're all-season vehicles, and the snow vehicles will not be going into Supervisor Tryon's area. May I?
Yes, in my area, we need subsidized air conditioning in the summer if we're going to subsidize snow removal in the winter.
I'd like to take all three of these unless the board has any problem.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like
Thank you,
to
Royal. Good job.
move to item 6, public comments. Does anyone have an item they'd like to address not on the agenda?
Can you open this door back here?
Well, the noise, it was so noisy in here.
Well, it's locked.
Oh, locked.
Yeah.
Oh. Brian, could you see if the officer...
The wrench, Jim, the wrench.
Not the
Thank
winch.
you.
Not
Thank
the
you,
winch, the
Bonnie.
wrench.
Yeah, finally,
Do it all, you know? Whatever needs to
versatility.
get done.
The other door, Jim, other door.
Okay,
Okay,
attorney.
could you please proceed?
I don't
Thank
even
you.
try.
Good morning. My name's Bob Lewis. I work for the Resource Connection here in San Andreas at the Food Bank, and I'm also the chairperson for the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee. As you know, the In-Home Supportive Services Program provides domestic and personal care to the elderly and disabled in our county. An integral part of this program is the creation of the public authority. This was created in 1999 by the passage of Assembly Bill 1682. Some of the duties that the Public Authority does is they create and operate a registry of screen workers for the consumers. So they actually do a background check on the providers, they do a fingerprinting, and to make sure the quality of the program is there. They also arrange for training for the providers. They do first aid training, CPR training, dietary training for people who need special diets. They act as the employer of record for the in-home supportive services providers. And they also make home visits to the community, to the elderly, to make sure that the compatibility of the provider and the recipient is working and there's no problems in the home. The two employees who work for the Public Authority, Colleen Reeves is the Public Authority Manager, and Teresa Sables, the Office Technician, I think they both provide a high level of professionalism and compassion to the residents of our county. I know I get calls from people who have moved up here from the Bay Area, and they're just so overwhelmed and happy to be able to talk to a live person on the phone, people who really have compassion, feeling for them, and try to solve their problems and make their life more comfortable. I get calls from the children of their elderly parents, And they're amazed that the staff actually know the history and the background of their loved ones. So, oh yeah, your mother is the one who has the parrot, who has, she's been having for 20 years, and it's a companion, and it's really important to her. Or your father has diabetes, and he's the one that needs a special diet to maintain his diabetes. I just want to kind of just give you an example of the importance of the public authority. I was working in Merced County under the In-Home Supportive Services Program. This was prior to 1999, before the institution of the public authority. And their caseload was just so overwhelming. We had 90 to 100 cases, and you just tried to find somebody from List A, a care provider, to match up with List B, the recipient, and just make that case so you can close it out. And you didn't have really time to look at the quality of the care provider, their background, their compatibility. And I think this is where a key component of the public authority comes into play. They can actually take that time to maintain that registry, do the background checks, look at the compatibility, and make the best match possible. So I think basically we're fortunate in California to have both the In-Home Supportive Services Program and the public authority working together to ensure the quality care for our seniors and disabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Good morning. I'm Ingrid Brown, and I live on 7900 Cabernet Street, and I'm here today to talk about things that bothered me. I understand you had a problem last week with a certain person, Terry Baker, known as the Roosterman. And I'm very disappointed the way things are happening here in this county. I've been living here for 10 years, and I had major problems. And I can understand his problems. And I think you people don't understand really what is going on. You should let people say what they feel and the problems they have, and don't tell him to shut up or that he's deranged or you're fed up or whatever. Picture yourself in his situation. 150 roosters all day long, all night long. It's a wonder the guy is crazy, you know? And you people or anybody else in this county doesn't want to do anything. So what if your neighbors decide they're like elephants? And they move a bunch of elephants in and make a bunch of noise. There has to be a law, and people should be able to live peacefully and enjoy their property. And why can't anybody help this man? These people are breaking the law. Get rid of those damn birds. What are they good for? Making noise, shitting all over the place, polluting the air? So are you guys backing him up and telling Terry that he is crazy? He isn't crazy. He wants to live like a normal human person, like I want to live. I don't have the right. I have a crazy neighbor that phoned up the sheriff and told him my son parked in her driveway, and guess what happened? My son was in jail for a whole year, and the thing is still going on with that neighbor. And I can't get any help from the DA and the sheriff or whatever. So I'm crazy too, right? And you're going to tell me to shut up and walk me out the door. Well, guess what, people? I come from Nazi Germany. I lived through it, okay? I'm 76 years old. I lived through it. And there is a flag of freedom. And if you want to come here and speak your mind and say and ask for help, you should be able to get it. That's what America is for, to help people, to solve problems. But nobody wants to take the hand. Get rid of that woman and those roosters and help this poor man. And don't tell him he's crazy. You people are lucky that he didn't wipe out the 150 roosters plus the woman. And then he'd be in jail. But that doesn't solve the problem. He's still reasonable. He's still here. Okay? And I'm still here. I'm not going, that woman has called me a Nazi whore. She has put on a hangman's noose in front of my driveway. And I have put up with it. She called my son a pedophile. And we put up with it and up with it and up with it. And I still put up with it, okay? So somebody has to have the balls to get up and say, enough is enough. Get rid of those damn chickens. They don't do nothing except driving people crazy, okay? And help them out. Okay, that's all I have to say. And I back him up. And I think people should stand up for their rights. And you people got voted in by us, and we have the confidence in you that you help us and do something. Well, if you don't do it, maybe we'll have to vote you out and get a new batch of people in that have the balls to stand up and say enough is enough. And Calaveras County cannot be known that everything goes. People have rights, okay? That's all I have to say.
Your comments are noted, Ms. Brown. Does anyone else want to say anything before the board?
Darren Spellman from Rancho Calaveras again. Just in light of what this lady is saying, obviously she's given testimony that she lived in Germany at a time when these things were not listened to, and she pointed out the fact that we do live in a country where we have freedom and we have rights. Whether or not it may be part of the job description of the Board of Supervisors or not, the board, if they cannot act in that capacity, needs to point these people in the right direction to someone who can handle that. Because when these things escalate to the point where people are hanging things in effigy in her yard or things like that, that's out of control. Just this last week, there was a guy who was so fed up with these things that he got in his car and he drove all the way to Washington, D.C., loaded to the hilt with 9mm guns and ammo, and he walked up to the Pentagon and started unloading and killed 2 police officers or whatever there. I mean, if you don't address these things, they get out of hand. And that's part of the problem that we're looking at here, is that there's people that have brought grievances and they're not being dealt with. And I'm not pointing fingers and saying that it's anyone's fault. But there has to be a solution to this before these things escalate, because when they do, then fingers will be pointed and there will be people that will face charges. And that's the last thing that the county needs, is another lawsuit on their hand for liability for not acting when there's a severe problem that's been demonstrated and voiced many times in this chamber as well as other places. Thank you.
Your comments are noted.
Good morning. My name is Rosemary Wilson from McCallamy Hill. I was going to be talking to you today about the Proactive Parkinson's Project non-event, which is a no-bake sale. But before I get onto that, I wanted to let you know that your officer on the main door did an outstanding job today, because I didn't pack this bag myself. Sarah Johnson, the director of Proactive Parkinson's, packed it, and I'm going to be going on a trip shortly, so this is important for me. The sheriff took a look, x-rayed it, and said, well, you can come in, providing you take that pair of scissors out of your bag. So, of course, I didn't know anything about it, but sure enough, there was a pair of scissors in there. I have some packets for you, and I'd like to go through what is in them from Sarah Johnson, the director of Proactive Parkinson's Project, and myself. And, oh, thank you.
Just give them to Carol.
I have to tell you that the letters after my name are real. Now, Sarah can't be with us today because she's up visiting with the Amador Board of Supervisors, doing much the same thing as I am. But she has a letter. Dear supervisors and county staff, just a few years ago, someone in this area who was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, PD, or another movement disorder had no one to call, no place to go for information, education, and support. 6 years ago, that changed when Proactive Parkinson's Project was formed. An all-volunteer community nonprofit organization, Proactive Parkinson's Project, otherwise known as P3, meets the previously unmet needs of patients, caregivers, family members, and friends of those whose lives are so severely impacted by such progressive, degenerative neurological diseases. PD does not go into remission and has no cure. While research goes on around the world, those of us who have this disease must depend on medications, hope, and on each other to deal with it. Our organization is on call 24/7 for patients and families. We represent, and by on call 24/7, that really is Sarah Johnson. She is the prime mover and shaker, pun intended, for this organization. We present educational seminars to clubs, civic groups, and medical professionals. We supply library branches with current educational literature, participate in community health events and activities, offer in-home visits, facilitate family meetings, and run 2 support groups, one in San Andreas and one in Pine Grove, and they are monthly meetings. Those of us who are doing this much-needed work are Parkinson's patients ourselves, so it is difficult to put on fundraising events, but it is easy to put on a non-event such as our no-bake sale. The bare minimum cost to operate this effort, the P3, would run in the 400s a month if you included the travel and photocopying or postage, that sort of thing. If each of you would come up with 1 month's expenses, we could operate for the next year without fear of having to give up on our work. We know you are in budget crisis, but we believe you would like to help us maintain providing advocacy and education to your friends and neighbors. Your support would be so greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
I'm not done yet. If I've got
You've had over 5 minutes.
Can I just go on a little bit longer?
How much longer?
I just want to read what our project bake sale campaign, no bake sale campaign
Please go
is
ahead,
all
Ms.
about.
Wilson.
Our non-event benefits all volunteer non-profit organization, Proactive Parkinson's Project. I'm so busy I can't bake, but just a moment I can take to send a little hard-earned dough to help Parkies with their cash flow. So be a hero and take a minute to send the envelope with your gift in it. And each of you, if you could post the information that I've provided on the schedule for events and the information on the No Bake Bake sale, I'd appreciate it. We also have a photograph of just some of our members from San Andreas, so that you can, from the San Andreas support group, so that you can help. It will help you actually put faces to the people that have PD. Thank you so much. Sorry I ran out of time.
No, thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Is there anyone else?
Good morning. My name's Bonnie Newman. I'm from Double Springs, and I was glad to see Mr. Rooster show up today. I was going to tell him that I have a picture of him on my refrigerator, and I was hoping that he'd put my picture on his refrigerator. I don't know if you saw the picture I got in the newspaper on, with me and my rubber glove, but here, this is for you. And I hope it be reciprocated in the same light. I felt bad for Terry last week, and I thought of him all week long. I'm glad to see him back here today. All this good press I've been getting, my pictures in the paper, I feel like maybe I should run for office or something.
Again?
So I was thinking, Marita Calloway, this is a challenge. You got to do something about the dark skies ordinance, or I might have to run against you.
You want it or you don't want it?
I want it. I want to look out and see the stars and the moon and, not have to drive somewhere else. And I know these guys were giving you a hard time, so they check us at the door. You're going to have to sneak the whips and chains in the back, and you can chain them down and I'll whip them for you. Oh, I'll like that.
This meeting is going.
What I wanted to say about Mr. Rooster was that I feel his pain. And I know why he was angry, and I know why he called people names last week, and it's because you guys are doing something I don't think very many of us would really want to do when we realize what it is you do. And for that reason, you are heroes. You're our heroes, hometown heroes. But if you don't do exactly what we think you ought to do, then you become weasels. So you're our heroes on one hand, and then you disappoint us on the other. And so when Terry got up here and he was overwrought, I felt for him. I knew why he was doing it, is because he's been disappointed. He gets excited, he gets hopeful, and I think that's why you're all here and we're all here, is we have hope. And when we're disappointed, sometimes we lash out at the very things we thought were going to be a resource for us. And so I just want to say that I love you, Mr. Rooster. I'm behind you, Mr. Rooster. And I love Mrs. Rooster, too. And I also have another hero that I want to acknowledge at this time. And this is Jeannie. Jeannie, I don't know why or how, but you're up there. And I want to show a little bit of appreciation. And I think the front of this card expresses how I feel about what you're doing. Thank you, Bonnie. And one last little thing. I really want to respond to Mr. Lewis, Bob Lewis, talking about the public authority, because last week I did my presentation about the GPA, or JPA, Joint Powers of Agreement, and it went over like a lead balloon. They're sitting on a real good thing over there, and they don't want to give it up. And so it's going to be a struggle for me to convince even the IHS Advisory Board that the public authority has not been totally responsible, especially since I hold the IHSS Advisory Board responsible too now at this point. So there's going to be a lot of resistance, and we just saw the first little counter, and I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Madam Chair, honorable members of the board, Leslie Davis, acting assessor. I'm here today to start a little education program and get the word out on what we're doing differently this year with business property statements. I made an intentional decision last fall, and it was part of our budget decisions last spring, to not mail out business property statements to all business owners in the county. It is my intent, and this is what we did, to mail to a small group of businesses based on their status. Under the law, businesses with $100,000 or more in business assets are required to file a business property statement whether we send it or not. So we sent out business property statements to those businesses who we could identify at that level. We also sent statements out to all brand-new businesses in the 2009 calendar year because, by definition, they had never filed before. As you all might remember, acting as the Board of Equalization, if we send out a business property statement, the business owner is required to file. If they do not file, we are obligated to assess a 10% penalty, and that penalty is not discretionary. The assessor has no authority to not penalize. In order to ameliorate the penalty, an appeal had to be filed, and that is just something that runs contrary to my thought process in terms of bureaucratic regulations. So we only mailed out to businesses who are required to file at the $100,000 or above mark, or businesses who did not file because they were brand new in 2009. So whatever is a business to do if they didn't get a business property statement? Well, for the most part, if I've talked to them, they're not filing. Is that a good idea? Maybe and maybe not. If a business did not have a change last year, then they probably don't need to file. We're going to estimate their business property value based on prior year's filings. If they did have a change, they might want to file. How do they do that if they didn't get one in the mail? They can do it one of two ways. First, they can log on to our website, and they can go to Forms and go to Business Property Statement. And the PDF fillable form exists there on our website, which will make it much easier for them. They can tab from field to field, fill it out, print it, sign it, and mail it back to us. Or they can go to the California Assessor Association SDR website. It's at www.calbpsfile.org. They need a business identification number to file on that website. They can get that by emailing our auditor appraiser, and that email address is auditorappraiser@co.calaveras.ca.us. That business ID number, or BIN, is their electronic signature. So we're requiring that they make a email request for that business ID number, and we will email it back to them. They can give it to their accountant. That doesn't matter to us because they will then control that BIN number and be able to file that way. The good news if they e-file on the California Assessor Association website is this. Once they've filed the first year, every year after that, they only have to input the changes. Now, if you've ever had to file a business property statement, I know I have, I hated it when I was in business, then you know you got to fill that whole darn thing out every year. You got to move everything down one line and then put the new stuff on. But if you go to the e-file website, you only have to input the current year after you've filed once. The other good news about the e-file website is this. We had two options on filing through the web. One was to pay Megabyte, our vendor, $20,000 to buy into their system, and another couple thousand a year in maintenance, or go with the California Assessors Association. And I whined and whimpered and moaned about our budget status, and I got them down to $500 to buy in on the first year. And pretty much a guarantee it's going to stay low because we're a smaller county. So we'll be able to do that annually for businesses. It does appear that I've confused business owners, and for that I apologize. The fact is they've got 3 different ways to file. If we mailed it, they're required to file, or they can file either using our website or going to the California Assessor Association website. I have talked to the Angels Camp Business Association last week. I'll be making the rounds trying to get this word out. But if you're talking to business owners in your travels, I'd appreciate your help with that. I'd be happy to answer any questions you've got.
Are there any questions? Russ?
Yes, Ms. Davis, on the option of going to the county website, you said a PDF, a fillable PDF comes up, but you have to select print it out, and then mail it in?
Yes, because we have to have it signed.
Okay. But if you go to the state assessor's website, filling it out as an e-filed document, that doesn't require a signature? Or?
That's correct, because we will give you a business ID number, and that is your electronic signature.
Oh, okay.
When you log in with that business ID number, we know that you are the person who's authorized to file, either as the business owner or as their accountant or bookkeeper.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ms. Davis? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Hi, guys. My name's Clyde from Valley Springs. Anyway, I know it seems like everybody don't like each other anymore and everybody hate each other, but, you know, it's like I have neighbors I don't get along with, or I think they should do something different. But if you go ask those people, they think I should probably do 8 things different. Because, you know, I mean, because we all just have a little difference, but pretty much we're all pretty good. But what worries me, and I can't remember what it was, but it was down in Burson, and there was neighbors fighting over bushes. And these ladies went out and cut the bushes down, and they were both killed, and the gentleman that did it is in prison. And it seems like at a certain point, and I don't want to take sides with anybody, I'm not anybody's apologist, we need to do, but at a certain point, someone needs to intervene before something like that happens again. You know, it just seems like you can see something happening, and to sit and do nothing until that happens, I think when we have just huge tragedy, and I hate to see that happen again. You know, this is, you know, everyone in Valley Springs is my neighbor. Everybody in Calaveras County is my neighbor. I haven't met anybody I really dislike, I can't get along with. And I know sometimes the emotions get going and people act like they shouldn't act. And I'm not saying, because I know how I am, and I do things like that, you know, so I try to not get real crazy too often. And a lot of time I'll sit there and I'll write out what I'm going to do, and then I'll put it down and I'll sit there and I'll read it the next day and go, whoa, boy, I'm glad I didn't do that. You know, so, but anyway, I just wish that maybe the county would intervene or something before something ugly happens. And that's all I have to say. And, you know, I like to be able to say something witty, you know, like Homer or something like that, or anything like that. But, you know, I just come back to the great apologist that we have here in California, Rodney King. Can't we just all get along together? You know, but I think that, you know, the county should do something before something ugly happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Are there any other comments? Okay, close public comment. Come back to the board. Item 7, amendment order appointing the applicants to on County Service Area 1. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, Madam Chairman and fellow board members, if you recall, a couple of months ago, I brought an item before you to approve 5 members of the CSA 1 Road Committee, and I also introduced the idea of expanding that group to 7. That took a subsequent ordinance change that we have in front of us here that we discussed that on the 16th day of February. So these are the 2 remaining names that I've put forward. They're Mr. Frank Garcia and Byron Lee. Both these gentlemen live in the lower geographic portion of Rancho Calaveras. You can see on their resume that they're highly qualified people. They're anxious to go to work. We've got an orientation meeting scheduled for the Thursday night, the 18th, where the members of our public works staff will be going over the requirements and the manner in which their decisions should be made. So anyway, with